In the bustling, ever-evolving landscape of Silicon Valley, innovation is the currency, and startups are the lifeblood. In this epicenter of technology and entrepreneurship, startups are born from groundbreaking ideas, fueled by venture capital, and driven by a relentless pursuit of success. This dynamic environment is brilliantly portrayed in The Social Network, a film that chronicles the dramatic rise of Facebook, the social media giant that fundamentally transformed how billions connect, share, and interact online. Directed by David Fincher and written by Aaron Sorkin, The Social Network not only tells the story of Facebook's creation, but also captures the high-stakes world of tech startups fraught with betrayal and legal battles. But remember, Hollywood often adds its twist. The book that inspired the movie, The Accidental Billionaires, was also criticized for accuracy. Even Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg called the movie fictional. More importantly, Eduardo Saverin himself was a key advisor for the story, especially while he was suing Mark Zuckerberg. So, what really went down here? Did Mark do something illegal? Or did Eduardo just sign without reading the fine print? Or was Mark trying to deliberately cheat his best friend? We uncovered the truth, seeking the real facts beyond the Hollywood version. Here's how Mark Zuckerberg played the money game to screw his best friend, a story every startup founder should watch. The Social Network unfolds during two key lawsuits, one between the best friends Mark Zuckerberg and Eduardo Saverin, and the other lawsuit involves the Winklevoss twins. On October 28, 2003, at Harvard, a heartbroken and drunk Mark Zuckerberg created FaceMash with his best friend Eduardo. The site allowed students to rate the attractiveness of their peers' photos. It quickly became popular, attracting 450 users and 22,000 votes in just 2 days. However, it crashed Harvard's servers and violated university policy, leading to its shutdown and Mark facing 6 months of academic probation. Despite its short life, FaceMash's success, combined with inspiration from the Winklevoss twins, inspired Zuckerberg to create something bigger, the Facebook. Mark observed that FaceMash wasn't popular just because it featured attractive girls. People could find such images anywhere on the internet. The real appeal was seeing pictures of people they actually knew. Everyone wanted to go online to check out their friends, so he thought of creating a website that offered exactly that: friends, pictures, profiles, everything they wanted to browse. It was like putting the entire social experience of college online. It was a fantastic idea. There was no need to hack anything. People would upload their own pictures and information and could choose to invite or not invite their friends to join. It was a massive project, and he needed to write tens of thousands of lines of code. Zuckerberg had the coding skills necessary for Facebook, but he needed financial support. That's where Eduardo came in, with his wealth and business connections, as his father was a wealthy businessman in Brazil. Both invested $1,000 initially, but Eduardo contributed even more, around $15,000, covering most server costs essential for Facebook's launch. He also guided Zuckerberg on financial and marketing strategies, playing a crucial role in the startup's early success. Mark valued Eduardo for more than just his financial contribution. Eduardo's extensive connections and leadership as head of the investment society made him a key asset. This made Eduardo integral to the startup's success. Mark offered Eduardo 2/3 of the company, making him the CFO with 30% ownership. Dustin Moskovitz joined the team, receiving 5% from Mark's share, resulting in a 65-30-5 split. However, even before these developments, Facebook was already entangled in a complex legal battle with the Winklevoss twins who sued Facebook, claiming Zuckerberg stole their idea. Their project, the Harvard Connection, was a platform for students to create profiles, list interests, and connect with friends. It's essentially what Facebook became. The Winklevoss twins, along with Divya Narendra, did reach out to Zuckerberg to build Harvard Connection, so they hired him. Mark agreed to help, and the project was underway. They thought they had found the perfect person for their project. But then, things took a surprising turn. After their first meeting on November 25th, Mark continued to email the twins. He said he would work on their project, but also mentioned how busy he was with other commitments. This seemed suspicious. These emails were full of promises and delays, making the twins and Narendra think progress was being made, while Mark was actually buying time. Fast forward to 2004, Facebook launched, and it was a huge success. The Winklevoss twins were shocked. They believed Zuckerberg had taken their idea and made it into Facebook. Feeling betrayed, they decided to sue him. During the lawsuit, those emails became key evidence. They showed that Mark had strung the twins along while he developed Facebook. The emails were made public, and Facebook's lawyers didn't challenge their authenticity, making them solid evidence. The movie The Social Network tells this story of betrayal, but the real story is even more complicated. The Winklevoss twins and their company, ConnectU, a social networking site they created to connect Harvard students, sued Zuckerberg, claiming he stole their idea to create Facebook. In response, Facebook countersued ConnectU. But the legal battles didn't stop there. Facebook also faced a lawsuit from another company, i2Hub, which accused them of stealing ideas for their platform, Social Butterfly. In 2008, a settlement was reached. Facebook agreed to pay ConnectU $20 million in cash and $45 million in Facebook stock. At the time, it seemed like a lot, but as Facebook's value skyrocketed, those shares became worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But the drama wasn't over. Just weeks after the settlement, the Winklevoss twins sued again, saying Facebook misled them about the stock's value. They argued that Facebook had undervalued its shares during the settlement talks and wanted more for malpractice, which resulted in a countersuit from the law firm, adding more complexity to this legal mess. Who's really at fault here? The Winklevoss twins were clearly tricked by Zuckerberg, but after accepting the initial settlement, they tried to squeeze more out of the deal. Some saw their continued lawsuits as greedy, while others believed they were justified in seeking what they were owed. Finally, a panel of 3 judges in San Francisco ruled that the twins had to stick to their original deal. They couldn't back out. The 2008 settlement was final, emphasizing that they had made a deal and had to honor it. The Winklevoss twins even talked about taking their case to the Supreme Court, but that never happened. The matter was finally settled, leaving everyone to wonder, did the Winklevoss twins get what they deserved, or were they right to keep fighting? Now, let's see what happened with the other lawsuit involving Mark Zuckerberg and his best friend, Eduardo Saverin. Do you know what's considered one of the best investments in modern history? It's likely Eduardo Saverin's initial stake in Facebook, which he co-founded with Zuckerberg. Saverin made so much money that he moved to Singapore and renounced his US citizenship, saving around $700 million in taxes. This move was influential enough that it drew significant attention from the US government, leading to the introduction of the Expatriate Act, sometimes informally referred to as the Saverin Rule. This proposed law aimed to ensure that individuals who renounced their US citizenship to avoid taxes would be subject to an exit tax and barred from re-entering the US. This tells you how significant the financial impact of Facebook has been. But how did these 2 college students transform a dorm room project into a billion-dollar digital empire? After the initial success of the Facebook at Harvard, the platform quickly expanded to other universities, thanks to its unique ability to connect students in a social network that was both exclusive and engaging. Eduardo's business acumen and financial support were critical during these early stages. He provided the funds necessary to keep the website running and was instrumental in securing early investments and advertisements. In exchange for his involvement, Mark offered Eduardo about 1/3 of the company, making Eduardo the CFO with 30% ownership. Their initial investment was $1,000 each, and they later agreed to contribute $20,000 each. However, Eduardo claimed that despite their agreement to contribute equally, Mark never provided his share. In a messaging conversation, it was evident that Eduardo covered most of the server costs, as servers were expensive at that time. When Dustin Moskovitz joined the team, he received 5% of Mark's share, resulting in a distribution of 65% for Mark, 30% for Eduardo, and 5% for Dustin. In 2005, Dustin and Mark moved Facebook's operations to Palo Alto, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, to be closer to potential investors and the tech community, while Eduardo stayed in New York for an internship. They formed the Facebook as a limited liability company, LLC, under Florida law. During this time, they met Sean Parker, the co-founder of Napster, who had extensive experience with startups. Mark decided to focus on Facebook full-time and seek funding. Sean helped secure investment from Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal, who provided significant funding but wanted changes in the company's ownership. Eduardo's absence and lack of involvement became a problem for investors, who viewed his large stake in the company as a liability. And Eduardo did something that really pissed off Mark. He ran unauthorized ads on Facebook for his own startup, a job board site called Joe Boozle. Eduardo's refusal to cooperate caused delays. Their only option was to remove him by transferring their intellectual property to a new company and face the lawsuit. So they came up with a plan. They changed the Florida LLC into a Delaware C-Corp. The new company, thefacebook.com, was established in Delaware and then took over the old company, which had started as an LLC in Florida in April. This allowed them to create new shares to reduce Eduardo's ownership percentage. Now, LLCs and C-Corp work differently in a key way. An LLC is like a partnership between people. The rules are set in an agreement that defines what percentage each partner owns. Partners are not shareholders but have a percentage of ownership. To change this ownership, you would need a new agreement each time, which is why LLCs are not ideal for companies seeking multiple rounds of funding, because rewriting agreements constantly is impractical. On the other hand, a C-Corp uses shares to represent ownership. When you own shares in a C-Corp, you don't need to transfer or sell them every time new investors come in. Instead, the company issues new shares to the new investors. Creating new shares means everyone keeps the same number of shares. But since there are more shares in total, each person's share is worth less overall. This is called dilution, and it's a normal and expected practice when companies raise money from investors. When the new C Corporation was set up, Mark agreed to change the ownership structure. He increased Dustin's shares to 6% and gave 6% to Sean Parker, while keeping 51% for himself and maintaining Eduardo's ownership at 30% for the time being. Then, Peter Thiel and a few other investors put in $510,000 through a convertible note. A convertible note functions like a loan that converts into company stock in the future when the company undergoes its next funding round. This note represented Facebook's first outside investment and had a valuation cap of $4.9 million, meaning it would convert into approximately 10.2% of the company's stock upon further funding. During this period, Eduardo became suspicious and froze the bank account of the Florida LLC, which he still controlled. He canceled all existing checks and lines of credit. Mark's family stepped in, injecting up to $85,000 to sustain operations until Peter Thiel's investment arrived. After Peter Thiel's money came in, the company continued to operate smoothly. Here comes Mark's trick. At the start of 2005, when signing for his 3.4 million shares in the new company, Mark convinced Eduardo to give up the voting rights of his shares and transfer them to himself. This decision effectively made Mark the sole director of the company, granting him the authority to make significant decisions without needing approval from other shareholders. Additionally, when signing his shares, Eduardo was tricked into agreeing that he would not be a part of Facebook. Mark issued 9 million new shares of common stock in the new company. He took 3.3 million shares for himself and gave 2 million shares to Sean Parker and 2 million shares to Dustin Moskovitz, leaving Eduardo out. The stock option pool was large and was created to benefit the existing shareholders by giving them more shares, except for Eduardo. This diluted Eduardo's shares without him knowing because his number of shares stayed the same while the company created many more shares and gave them to others. As Mark adjusted the shares for further commitment, he increased Sean Parker's shares to 12% and Dustin Moskovitz's shares to 13%. Mark also took additional shares for himself, raising his stake to 51%. Peter Thiel's investment gave him 10.2%. Since Eduardo was no longer a part of Facebook, he wasn't entitled to any of these stock options or extra shares, which significantly reduced his stake to around 12%. By April 2005, the company closed another round of funding, raising almost $13 million at a $98 million valuation. This meant the company issued new shares again, diluting everyone's shares evenly. After this, the company was divided with Zuckerberg at 41%, Parker at 10%, Moskovitz at 11%, Thiel at 10.2%, and Eduardo at 9.8%, although these percentages may vary according to different sources. During the signing of these agreements, Eduardo finally realized that his ownership had been diluted from 30% to under 10%, not to 0.03% as portrayed in the movie. Mark's plan had worked. Eduardo was effectively out of the company. Eduardo found out how much of his shares were taken away in April 2005 when he got a letter from the Facebook.com asking for approval for its second round of funding. 15 days later, Eduardo's lawyers responded to the letter. The next day, Mark officially fired Eduardo. Did Mark trick Eduardo out of his shares? Or did Eduardo not pay attention when he signed the agreements? The answer is unclear, but lawsuits followed. First, Facebook sued Eduardo, saying the agreements he signed in October were valid. Then Eduardo sued Mark, claiming Mark used Facebook's money, including Eduardo's, for personal expenses during the summer. Feeling betrayed, Eduardo grew bitter. He even contacted Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss and Divya Narendra, the Harvard students who said Mark stole their idea for Facebook. Eventually, Eduardo decided to harm Mark's reputation. He approached Ben Mezrich, the author of Bringing Down the House, and offered him a story about how a group of Harvard students made it big in Silicon Valley. Mezrich wrote The Accidental Billionaires, which portrayed the characters as rock stars and scoundrels. After Eduardo began talking to Mezrich, he and Facebook settled their lawsuits. Facebook, which had previously denied Eduardo's status as a co-founder, began listing him as one on its website. As part of the settlement, Eduardo stopped speaking to the press. Like the Winklevoss brothers, Eduardo Saverin felt he had been tricked by Mark Zuckerberg in Facebook's early days. And in some ways, he was. Whether Mark's actions were justified by Eduardo's behavior is another question. However, like the Winklevosses, Eduardo ultimately came out ahead. His initial $15,000 investment in Facebook grew to be worth over $1 billion without any further effort on his part. In the end, Eduardo's investment turned out to be one of the best of all time. Money never sleeps on Wall Street, and neither does on our channel. Watch all the mind-blowing Wall Street stories and explore intriguing money movies, all here in one place. Like this video and subscribe to The Money Game to level up your financial game today.